1,000 participants in those various events. But certainly check us out. There is a QR code on the table in front of you. If you scan that, you'll automatically be added to our newsletter, which goes out every Tuesday morning and shares the events for the next 10 days. So thank you all for being here, and I hope to see you here for other events, not just this program here tonight. But thank you again. Have a great meeting.
Thank you, Lynn.
Looks like we're good.
Checking last.
We'll go ahead and start with some introductions. I guess, I don't know. It's a new arrangement. So we're kind of all kind of figuring out.
Right in my
where to sit.
face.
Liz Bell, Vice Chair.
No.
Frank Costantino, resident, business and property owner, and historic.
Chris Voinovich, member at large, resident, historic.
Marsha Austin, resident and member.
Carolyn Cheatham Rhodes, resident and property owner, Ybor.
David Bailey, resident and developer of the Ybor Neighborhood Business Association.
Michael Lane Murphy, Silver Media Gallery, resident, homeowner, and at large.
Ybor City Campus.
This is what it's all down.
Randy Berry, business owner, at large. Very happy with them.
Damon Ybor, Ybor Chamber.
Steve Barbas, Ybor City Museum Society.
Yeah, A, member at large, building owner.
Jack Smith, HDP Associates.
Urban Shield and EJ Heritage Center.
Sir, over there, Dan. I think it.
I do the corner, Dan College, Tampa PD. Guns will fit me. The holidays were good to me. Lee Valley, Ybor Chamber.
Officer Wiltshire, Ybor Liaison. Jason Stewart, yes team. Vance Van Ybor.
Chris Rodriguez, community officer, Ybor.
Renee Lopez, the Tampa Florida.
Mike Peterson, the Tampa Code Enforcement District Supervisor.
Andrew White.
Part CRA communication.
Is there anyone here in the public wishing to comment, for public comment, 3 minutes? Seeing none, we'll move into the minutes of the November 28th, 2023 meeting. These were packet, there's copies in your packet, hard copy packet today. You can kind of push that back a little bit if you guys want to take a few minutes to read through them and make sure they're okay. Or if they're, I'll entertain a motion as well.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Any changes? Seeing none, all in favor said the motion, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Quick little housekeeping note, there's a sign-in sheet. Pass that around.
Well, that's just for guests, right? Board doesn't need to sign.
No, the board doesn't need to sign, but if you are here as a guest, please sign it. It's a public meeting, so we always log in who is present.
Be back in that. That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we'll start off with our community policing updates, at the college. Ultra.
Is it being streamed virtual? You want me to stand somewhere else? I live up here. That, I don't.
No, I can turn it.
We're recording and then have audio.
You're good.
I'm just trying to accommodate. Thank you. I hope everybody had a great holiday. We survived New Year's. We didn't know what to expect. It went very well. We're in the Gasparilla season. So Pirates debated today. I don't know if you were downtown, heard it. It's extremely loud. They now have the key to the city. So they'll celebrate this Saturday with their winter. I'm just going to hit the wave tops with some data that I kind of, every once in a while, I like the statistics and see where we're at. Obviously, statistics can be driven any which way, but there's things that are, I think, are significant. Burglaries are down 100% compared to this time last year. Our larcenies, our thefts went up. Well, the reason they went up, we had that pickpocket string in Ybor. That's since been addressed or they haven't returned. So now we're back at like a normal status. Our robberies are down 100%. Our vehicle thefts are down 50%. Our DUI arrests are up 100%. And 0 ag assaults with a firearm. So very encouraging. Crime in the city has gone down quite significantly. And over the years, if you guys have seen, we've dropped or suppressed crime to the point where, like, can we even get any lower? And there was a concern that we couldn't, because it's like, can you get blood from a stone? But the officers are doing a great job. They've been very proactive. Our activity levels are extremely high compared to where they were during COVID. We couldn't be more pleased with the data that we're seeing throughout, not just in Ybor, but throughout the city. I'll touch on the incident that happened outside Club Tangra. Are you guys familiar with that? Okay, so what happened was there was a customer inside. He was told to leave. I guess he wasn't very happy. He went to his car, drove down towards 7-Eleven, got out, walked up, fired, I believe, 6 shots up in the air, recovered 6 shell casings, and then got in his car and left. But as he was leaving, the officers were close enough that they were able to do a felony stop and apprehend him and the firearm. So the only thing that really was discouraging to us is that just discharging a firearm in public, not at a person or not threatening anybody, is a misdemeanor. And it's not an exemption to the warrantless arrest under Florida statute. So we did direct file charges with the state. That very morning, we're in touch with the state attorney's office. They have filed that charge against that subject. So he'll get a summons to appear in court. We tried every which way. If he had fired from the car, it would have been a felony. He was on foot. I want to thank Officer Review because he was very proactive with getting that information out on a group thread because the media, I got a call at 2 a.m. in the morning. Everything was taken care of. I didn't really need to come in for that. I woke up at 5:30, and it was already on the news, Ybor shooting, which is semantics, a play on words, because it wasn't really, it implies that somebody got shot and nobody got shot, nobody was harmed, nobody was threatened. It's just this person discharged a firearm up in the air, but that's not the headline that captures attention. It wouldn't, because it's not a felony, it's not ag assault. And this is for December, that's January. So we haven't published January's data yet. We do that on a monthly basis for this.
That will be reported at any of these. I'm really concerned that because that's something that people see and they won't come to Ybor because of. And so if we're looking at statistics, if we're talking about how everything's down.
Yeah. It would only count as an arrest. I mean, we limit the number of categories that we report only because it just then gets too muddy and there's too much to interpret. So normally we judge ourselves based on our big fives, robbery, burglaries, auto theft, ag assault, things of that nature. And then everything else is kind of, again, we could add more to that, then that dashboard would get very large. And then I think the significant data would get lost.
I mean, just gun violence is something that's more frightening, I think.
I would agree. No, I would agree. I mean, it's not restricted just to the historic district. It's nationwide, obviously. But our gun violence has dropped. So we're happy with that because there's some things that are very hard to prevent. You know, Florida is one of those states where it's pretty easy to get your hands on a gun. It's not as restricted as some other states. And so that's a fact that it contributes to more events involving the violence. So, does anybody have any questions for me?
A question kind of piggybacking on Bridget's question. And it's kind of, I get why we wouldn't have criminal mischief per se in this report, but it is kind of hard for us to gauge what the trend is. You know, if it's, you guys happen to pick up a lot of weapons that, you know, you just seize them. That's an interesting trend that we could keep an eye on, but also being the victim of 2 counts of criminal mischief in the past 2 months, it's, you know, there's a quality of life issue that's kind of underlying this data. And I'm wondering if there is, maybe it's just quarterly, like a separate report, so we don't muddy the clarity of this report, but somehow understanding like the tagging, the graffiti and the window breaking and like all this stuff is really ramping up.
So understand criminal mischief, that the statute itself is very broad. I can certainly add criminal mischief to that data. That's not a problem. It's what kind of criminal mischief is it? Is it, somebody broke a window, did, slash a tire, like then to get answers on each one of those, because criminal mischief is one of those, I don't want to say it's a minor crime, but it's a crime, right? But it happens probably more frequently because there's a threshold to committing criminal mischief, as opposed to committing a robbery, right? So there's going to be more instances of criminal mischief probably than anything else. So I can certainly add a number of criminal mischief events in the grids. I just, I might be hard pressed to speak about every event.
Sure, yeah,
So-
I get the
I'll work
breadth
with
of it.
Brenda and I'll see if our analysts can add that. I don't see this being a problem. And I can report that. Any other questions? So I was reminded last month it was 45 minutes I was up here and I'm trying not to eat into your meeting too much, but we're here. So, and you all know definitely how to get a hold of me if you have any questions after. If you don't want to ask on this forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you're good.
Yeah, touch base with the community. We are trying to work on solving who's been tagging the businesses. A lot of the issues I'm seeing is we're not getting reported on a fairly quick basis. Sometimes it's a week. We're working with now that the guy waited almost 2 weeks. But kind of makes it difficult for us to look for camera, try to track because we don't know exactly when it hit. Oh, it happened sometime last week. That doesn't really tell us a good point time frame. So we can try to narrow it down. But let's just email me. You see a new tag on your business. Trying to pinpoint it so we can start looking at through all the cameras and try to see who's in the walking around and try and get a pinpoint time when it's actually happening. So start reporting it so we can get a better track of it.
I'd like to make a comment on that. Just specific example, I mentioned 2 different criminal mischiefs. So the business property that I occupy got tagged. I caught the guy on camera doing it. Like, how often does that happen? But called TPD, the reporting portal at that time, I think some of this is changing because, like I said, I had a second criminal mischief just last month and the whole reporting process was different. But the first time.
Are you doing it online?
Yeah, well, I'm following the text prompts that I get from the officer that sends, here's your case number, we're requesting evidence. And for the tagging, it would not accept the video. It would only accept still images.
If you're having issues like that before, because I don't know if you're doing reporting online or not, get with me. I got the system. I can just get the information and throw it right in.
Okay.
That way it can be common. If you're having problems with the technical part of it, don't hesitate. Y'all got my number.
Yeah.
I'm here. Starting next month, we actually go back on cycles. So I'll be on a cycle working 4 days, and then I have a counterpart who's off today, so she couldn't make it today. And she's going to be working the opposite cycle. But if you're having those kind of difficulties uploading the video, just call me. I'll get with you.
Which that works, and I appreciate that invitation, but for the rest of the community that, they might not know your phone number, and it's, I'm just giving you some constructive feedback that when I'm pretty tech savvy, and when I tried to report that tagging, I was like, shit, I understand why people don't report it, but I
I'll see
think
it look like you got like a nice.
I,
The higher up, the food chain for me,
I think the process has changed since the first time to the second time, so that could be good news.
but don't hesitate to call when we get these issues, because we are trying to crack down. There's several others I'm actively looking, gathering intel, trying to pinpoint who the main ones are, so we can try to at least make 1 arrest or 2 arrests. Say, hey, we're done with it. It's not going to go on, and hope the rest of them get the message and leave the area.
Thank you. Nation. Officer Perez Martin. Have a homeless report today? Not here, okay. All right, we'll move on to code enforcement. Wherever you're comfortable with.
Okay, so I guess, good afternoon, everyone. I guess the last time we were here, Brian, you had mentioned about trying to condense the report a little bit, which we did when we sent it over. David had also wanted more information on one part, and he with our analyst. Had a chance to look at it, what your thoughts are on this, what can be condensed. It's too much, too little, need it a little bit more.
It's just confusing. It looks like y'all can give it the IT department. I mean, TPD has a great report, the yes team has a great report. It just seems like code enforcement is still, I don't know.
It could also be a print issue. It looks like you kind of printed 3 columns of a table on this page and 1 column on the next page. Same table.
Yeah, well, it's sent over in the email, it's sent over in a spreadsheet. There, you know, we've been trying to reduce this.
Oh,
For some of the printing, we try to reduce the columns, so it will on the regular 8.5 by 11.
and they do like by grid or by street, just something where we can easily follow.
I guess,
This is grid 28, I'm in grid 29,
right,
either by grid or street, avenues, streets, just something. I mean, that's just takes a long time to go. All of that to identify what the new people for somewhere else. I don't know, just.
and this is all, everything that our analyst has said, whatever the feedback is, you want to try to incorporate, so.
Did you show?
It just takes-
The
I can't. And no, it's not, our program is entirely different than the program that TPD uses.
I don't think y'all had a program. We're used to get code enforcement was good. Was 10 line. So this is an improvement and I appreciate your fund.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, what I'm trying to get you, whatever the basic information that you need on that, and I can, you know, talk with Brenda and feedback that comes through to give to the analyst, try it, send it out, see what it looks like. And then you can always just let me know, you get a little bit more. Well,
I don't know. I think if they had like 9th Avenue, 10th Avenue, 11th Avenue, or, 22nd Street, well, we could just go down and recognize exactly the ones quarters that we know that are a problem. But this, it would take me an afternoon to go through all those bathrooms to see if they need it. But thank you.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, but again, it's, something that we're trying to work with. When we had the old system, it was it was a DOS-based system. It was easy to just extract what we need here based on, takes it out. I'm not that savvy to understand
Well,
how.
I'm not either, so I
And
appreciate that.
he asked me, I said, well, I'll present that. Please tell me, what they say.
Oh, you're working with us. It's a work in progress. Thank you.
Yes, and that's all I can. Again, not a whole lot has changed from the last month, this month, where we due to vacation times and all that through the holidays. Code enforcement tries not to be too heavy-handed unless it's something that's egregious on the holidays. So the report, just based off the last quarter. The next time that we meet, we'll be off of the month of January, and each month thereafter.
I would also like to say, I like your summary and thank you, like that. I personally cannot seem to coincide the summary with the sheet, with the list, fine. But I'd also like to know, we've got 109 new complaints, 57 active and 15 civil citations. What have you closed? I'm assuming all of these are open and active and the
Yes.
top yellow ones.
Yes.
So my question is, and that's great, it gives us a snapshot of, okay, here are the issues coming in. But in the same time frame, what have you closed? I'd be interested in that along the same thing. And I guess I'm also looking at it, there's several here in process in this particular list. And I guess I'm looking at, I understand they're in process because I understand it is a process, but when are you anticipating them to close?
And
And that's something that I would be interested in too, because I see when the case date, I'm assuming that's when they open. When are you anticipating, or when are they expected to close out or be resolved? Or moved to
So
compliant?
And most of the ones that are in are something that has been submitted for specialty review, meaning a lot of these that you'll see that are in process over this last quarter were the parking lots, the issues that we're having, and we're between the zoning department and historical preservation. They're trying to put a master list together comprehensive plan of all these lots. So
Right.
I can, at the end, for the ones that come into compliance, don't come into compliance, I can present that separately to you so that you have a master list on all these parking.
Right.
So that's what a lot of specialty review is. It would be something that's in process. We send it to them. We haven't opened any case yet because it is still under review. So we're at their mercy. A lot of cases that turn over to the zoning department. And we, especially with, it's all like these parking lots, if we're going to issue notice based on what they say isn't in compliance, we want to send them all out at once. We don't want to send one out 1 month, one out a couple of weeks later, and then everybody's going to different hearings. If it gets to that point, we'd rather try to get it where, oh, we might have to have a special hearing. Everybody can go, but just with those cases. So that's based on that. That's what you see. I apologize for the wording as it pops up, through Excel on
Yeah.
what it is, but that's what we're.
And I understand that for the parking lot one, but there's some other ones out here too. We could at least know this is when it's expected to be compliant, so we.
Generally, as a rule, most cases have a 21-day window to come into compliance. And that's for your simple instances for growth,
Right.
regulations, inoperable vehicles. Or unless the owner was out of town, followed us, they needed an extension of time, we would most likely grant that to them. Or it was a little bit more than anticipated that they needed to do. We see that they're working on it. We don't want to issue the citation or issue it or schedule it to a hearing because it just takes up the hearing down the road. We'll schedule it out a couple more weeks, reschedule it out a couple more weeks to give them that time.
Right.
And then if they don't, then we schedule a hearing.
And I think part of the challenge we had, and correct me if I'm wrong, group, I think part of the challenge we had was we felt like nothing was happening. That things were being called in, but nothing was happening. So this shows us clearly there's stuff being called in and tracked.
Yes.
It just would help us, help me to understand where it's at in the process that it has to go through.
Oh, all right. Up a little bit.
Yeah, I have one question. I think I've probably mentioned this address for the last year. 2602 10th Avenue. All we keep hearing is they have an active building permit. But that yard and that whole, I think there's 2 lots there. Looks like a third world country, which is because they have a building permit for the addition and to build. It's not a barrio issue because it's on infrastructure. But something needs to be done about that. It's strictly in violation, but because there's a permit and open for a year.
And exactly, usually after 6 months is when the permits.
My complaint has nothing to do with the building permit. That yard and that whole 2 lots are a third
Is
world
it,
country.
again, I'm not familiar with that particular
Renee
address.
knows
Is
this real
it
good.
building materials that are there?
And the back part, but the
Back.
first,
Okay.
you just have to, he knows.
I mean, I can take a look at it and see if we, to check on it to see if we can get a little creative, so to speak, on that. A lot of times when it's a building permit, they take first, they have the hands in the pie first, and they have to comply with whatever they say.
Once you see it, it has nothing to do with it.
There's everything in it, everything you can imagine.
It's not a building issue.
No.
It's become
There's
a.
just tons of waste and garbage and trash all over it.
Broken toys.
Yeah, it's
Broken-
not a junkyard.
It's like an episode of Hoarders. It really does. Sorry, I'm trying to be a little,
I'll look at it.
just to give you perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You said that December was kind of quiet because you guys had vacations and stuff.
Yeah,
Are
the
you noticing-
vacation times off for a couple with the holidays that fall in there.
Are you noticing any trends in the district, in this area that or should be aware of?
Outside of what we talked about with the graffiti, seeing a spike in that, and, we've had conversations where, want to kind of tread lightly on the graffiti as, some of these establishments, even though it is a violation for them to take care of it themselves, and, between clean crew and what we have out there, trying to take away some of this that's on public property. I'm apprehensive to, hit the business for the violation because of, somebody that's just walking through and has the can, just does that, we'd rather get out, maybe mention, talk to them, see if they, that's where Officer Wiltshire and Sergeant Williams, we're planning on meeting together to discuss, how we can game plan on this rather than issuing notices to the business. But we need to have them make a report to the police and then we can work with them. Nobody wants to see what we need. It's a pet peeve of mine. But at the same time, it's on, private property.
It makes it victim of criminal.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's, despite that we've seen a lot of verbal complaints coming in about the graffiti.
And I think the other issue that we talked about a month and a half ago at our last meeting was a lot of these parking lot attendees were cited and they were going to go in front of a magistrate. Has that happened yet, or
No,
what's the timeline on that?
That's still under this comprehensive work of zoning and historical preservation. As a matter of fact, Renee will be dedicating one day a week for the next 5 weeks to get all this so that they can notify these parking lots what specifically needs to be done based on the violations that they have. And I know there's new verbiage that's coming up for a new code designed for these parking lots that is in the works as well. I guess that's soon to be presented to the city council as far as what changes they're looking to for the meeting. I think that's coming up pretty soon. And then, obviously, I don't know what that changes, but on our end of it, we just want to ensure that everybody, based on when they have this parking lot, obviously people like to say grandfather and all, use all this, wonderful verbiage, but that means nothing to me. Zoning tells me they're in compliance or they're not based on, parking spaces, attendance, whatever, then we're good. But we are still doing the parking lot attendance, every other weekend. We're checking parking lots. And then sporadically in between if necessary.
And really, once you cite them and they go in front of a magistrate, it's kind of out of your hands anyways.
Absolutely. And we did that, and we did have a few cases that did go. I don't know if we talked about this previously, that the magistrate did rule for the city on 3 or 4 of them and then against us for 2 of them. I don't understand, how that works, but again, it's all, legal verbiage that they were going by and magistrate. He's not a paid city employee, so however they presented the cases. I heard they're appealing the findings too. And so on. But
Is there a way, Brenda, is there a way to kind of track that? I mean, it's not really his,
the
like,
city
his case
clerk,
that.
I think the city clerk will have a record of it because, it was a fine that was issued. It was found irreparable. So they issued a $250 fine or $500 fine or something like that to them.
Okay, so we need to,
City clerk. should
I'll look into that.
I don't know if there's,
So
it's not
the
really
tracking.
his, not really his issue. Once he cites it, it goes on and then.
Yeah.
I don't want to get lost on
It'll
notes and act.
still show on that address as far as, a lien when it goes to the conduits, that we have to go
Gotcha.
to see it, but that's just a one-time fee. So now if we find them again, we go up to that same lot. Now we'll bring them back as a repeat offender. And that fine will probably get steep.
I do know tomorrow, it's Thursday, the 25th, at City Council at 9 o'clock. It's on their agenda to, land development's coming back with some recommendations on all the meetings that y'all attended over from October and December about the parking lot enforcement. And I don't even know what the report says, so stay tuned. But as soon as I do, I'll of course share it with you at the next meeting.
And again,
That
it's
means-
just a matter of getting the department together, bring this comprehensive parking lot. Or area, so that we know what was
Thank you.
Thank you for your information.
Thank you.
Jason, you want to say, yes team update?
Yes.
So in ASIP, I just go over some of the highlights, some of the most notable type of highlights that I want to bring up. Today I want to do something just a little bit different. In the past where it's kind of like a report where it's the unforeseen stuff that's not noted directly, like the Sharps report. So on this report, I just want to actually cover some things that aren't, they're just a statistic number carried in here. But these are real incidents that are happening in the district that I have to be aware of them. And I won't go over every single one, but just a few super notable ones is December 13th, CRA2, local business owner contacted the ES team about individual camping on the property. ES team response was 8 minutes. TPD was on the scene same time. Business owner asked what's a proper procedure. We're like, definitely contact TPD non-emergency for the situation. Perfect community closure to that event. 8-minute response for our team, and TPD was already there, so it was super great. On Friday, 12/14. In an occupied encampment in CRA2 was found by one of our ambassadors. Sharps were found and syringes and drug paraphernalia. Immediately reduced because it was unoccupied, so we got it off of the area and disposed of that. On Friday, 12/22, an individual threatened one of our cleaning ambassadors that was just doing the cleaning detail in the morning on 7th Avenue. Verbally, physically threatened by one of our ambassadors. We did contact TPD for that incident, and they responded in 4 minutes. Phenomenal, by the way, too. Sergeant Williams came down to check on the team, make sure we're okay. And it wasn't anything escalated, but just as we're operating, there's sometimes the things that kind of happen to us. On Wednesday, 110, I'm going to bring some stuff that's more recent too, and because it'll just be stats for the next brief. But an ambassador witnessed an individual swinging a baseball bat, acting erratically. With our ambassadors co-located, we contacted TPD, individuals taken into custody, perfect closure. But these are just a lot of the incidents that people don't see or know that we're experiencing in the district. And it's not in the numbers that it used to be either by any means, but I just want people to kind of be aware of what our ambassadors see and do. On Saturday, recently, one of our ambassadors were threatened by an intoxicated individual with a knife. We contacted 911, the individual was taken into custody. We had 2 ambassadors on the scene to do the report, and they actually gave, witness testimony, and they'll be going to court tomorrow on the clock for us to follow through the procedure all the way. So, full extent, once it gets, on that side, it's on them, but we go all the way through this process. Also on the 31st for New Year's Eve, we did the parade. We had a blast as a team. We really, really loved it. I know I've heard different mixed things about the parade itself, but just for us as a team on the clean hand safety side, it was a really great feeling from the community. Super positive. Even the team was afterwards super surprised. Like, I can't believe everybody was saying that team. So it was really fun for all of us. And then our team actually, the safety ambassador team broke off at the end and continued the patrol for the night. And the clean team was done for the day that stayed and went back. But it was a great event. We really appreciate the community having us for that. We also identified 2 individuals in the district most recently, and they were not from in town. They were actually traveling to town. And this is like a perfect candidate for a type of outreach program or outreach situation where we actually engaged the individuals, got some information from them, kind of vetted their story a little bit, and we passed on the information to TPD homeless liaisons who's processing it. And I wish also House of President here to speak on it, but they are processing it to actually relocate them to their family back where they belong. So it's a good closure to that. Also on the graffiti initiative side, obviously working super closely with Ybor liaisons, Officer Wiltshire. But so one of the things that our ambassadors are doing, as we see the graffiti, obviously on public, city infrastructures, we do cover those, remove them. The chemicals are actually, the type of paint to match. But on the private property side, what we're doing is we're actually creating an incident report from when we see it. Now, we know it's not an accurate timestamp of when it happens, but it reduces that window, hopefully by days, if not a week, of when we see the actual graffiti with the picture and an incident timestamp. So we kind of work with TPD of saying, all right, we've narrowed the window down. Now can we look at this window of footage time for the property owner, et cetera. As well as, like I said, just identifying the bills and stickers and graffiti daily, which you see in the stats, it fluctuates. But also kind of like, Joe saying too, is like you will see somebody come to the district and do 15 tags in one day. That's kind of hard to isolate and identify, but the same thing with bills and stickers. We'll see a campaign and we'll remove 50 in a day. But that's just some of the initiatives we've been doing and some of the stuff that's going on.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Hey, patients are resident workers survey.
There's a clicker. Can everyone see
Sorry
the
about
screen?
Getting pushed from last.
Oh, no, it's quite all right. You know,
It's all right.
some other pressing things happen. So hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name's Jack Smith. I'm the research analyst at HCD Associates. We're the marketing and communications firm of record for Ybor City. And this is our biennial resident and worker study. This is from 2023, obviously, you know, right way to start of the new year. So to start off, just a little bit about the background and methodology for this particular study. So this is our fourth study that we have done. Starting in 2016 was the first one which set up a baseline. Obviously, COVID delayed to 2021, and we moved it to 21. And this is usually done through two different online surveys, one designed for residents and one designed for workers. And the way that we do it is that if you both live and work in the district, we ask you to take the resident survey, because obviously everything and they're going to change a little bit differently. And how we get this out is through multiple different distribution methods. So we'll put it in Ybor flashes throughout the time of distribution. It'll also go into the Ybor legend of one of the summer edition this year. Additionally, we canvass the different businesses, and we try to get to apartment complexes and some single-family homes. Primarily this year, we've worked with interns from the University of Tampa and USF to do that throughout the district, and then businesses that we could not get into for whatever reason, we try to follow up with an email in some form, giving that information so they can share with their workers. We had some success with that. This year, our count of the residents are 285 respondents, and workers have been 270, so that leaves a margin of error for both for about a little bit over 5.5%. And then finally, you know, after collecting the data, analyzing it, really four themes emerged from that data across both studies. And they'll go in order: community activation, retail development, parking and transportation, and safety and security. But to kind of kick it off in a way that, kind of gives a good overlook on this is what we call our expectation gap. So what the expectation gap is two separate questions. One asking somebody how important a certain characteristic of the neighborhood is, and then their experience with that characteristic. You subtract those numbers and you ultimately get what we would say is like the gap. So in this case, a higher expectation gap means that it needs more improvement. So this is the general chart that we use. However, this can change depending on sample size. So this would be for like a large city of Tampa size study for what it was. So there's going to be some a little bit of adjustment, but overall, this kind of gives an idea of what it is. So anything really above a 2.0, we would consider concerning, and the biggest things that need to be addressed. And so when we look at that to start for residents, that I'll first point out, the color coding goes with these different categories. So blue is safety and security, green is parking and transportation, and gray is community activation. So what we see is a couple different patterns. First, residents are generally happy with those community activation elements, really other than housing, which is kind of a different realm. But obviously that's not just an Ybor thing, that's a city of Tampa issue with housing availability and affordability. But really like those good feel things, festival and events, the streetscape, things to do, the sense of community, they are generally positive. And we see the same thing with things around parking and transportation for residents. The obviously areas of the biggest concern are around safety and security, particularly public area cleanliness and personal safety. And this is really more magnified when it comes to the workers. So what we kind of see here, we see very obviously a lot higher when it comes to those two particular ones. But we also see is that parking becomes a greater issue for workers compared to residents. This kind of makes sense. These are trends that we saw, and I'll touch on a little bit as we get to that section. When paid parking was implemented in the study. And, you know, obviously that was an effect on Ybor and the businesses. But again, overall, these are pretty good. You know, there are some differing opinions from workers, and I can get into those a little bit deeper. But these kind of give a good idea of different things that are going to, like a shared responsibility between the public and private sectors, or things that private organizations will need to take on, or can help improve in the Ybor city, or things that the city of Tampa and the public will also work on. So getting into community activation, when we look at the chart at the top left, we ask about what priority residents and workers want placed on these different aspects. So we see that again, there's great priority placed on parks and green space, walking trails and bike paths. The one that like a majority of people don't see that probably needs to be placed on is dog park, but that may be, obviously, there was a new dog park on Fourth and Angel Olivia that was the end of 22, I believe. So, you know, that may be that the community needs that, not that people think that they don't. When we look at the chart on the right, what it's asking is that if these things were available or more prevalent, would you likely to use them? And again, what we see about this is the general trend is that residents are more likely to use and want these things compared to workers, which is expected. But obviously, sometimes the amount of people responding to that is that case. Obviously, the Greenway sign connecting Ybor corridor, 88% of residents, you know, say they would use this as available, and 69% of workers. But the one that I think really interesting here is on this one right here, the streetcar extension into Tampa Heights and near Armature Works. It's nearly the same for residents and workers, which show a clear desire and, you know, praise for honestly the streetcar. And we kind of see that throughout the study, especially as we get into the parking and transportation section. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, that residents are obviously going to use these things much more. So I think considering some of those development things would come from like that side is residential input may be of greater importance. A lot of people will use them, but the residents are obviously going to get the most use out of them. Going into retail development. So the chart on the left here kind of asks people in a typical month how often they leave the district to do any of the following. So this blue right here is kind of the important one. They're leaving 3 times or more. That's, you would probably say about once a week they have to leave to go do that. And the top 3 are grocery store shopping, casual dining, restaurants, and health clubs and gyms. Obviously, something like a grocery store the district doesn't really have. I know as part of the master plan released in 2020 about trying to, you know, part of the retail recruitment stuff. But clearly it's something that people are really leaving on. And while there have been private market solutions to kind of fill gaps for various reasons, whether it's food delivery services like a Instacart or the home delivery boxes, people still are still, you know, doing the traditional grocery shopping, probably want that. And then unsurprisingly, again, residents are leaving more than workers. Obviously, they're probably spending more time in the district. You know, people may not have as much flexibility at work. You know, the change in work environments have also probably affected it. We've seen that in different markets as well, that since COVID and the increase in work from home, we've really seen kind of a drop in workers, you know, coming into the district, but also doing activities and chores like taking them to a dry cleaner or doing grocery shopping or running other errands while on their break. So this isn't too surprising, but this addresses some of the things in which residents really maybe benefit for in the district. So this year we kind of asked what specific retailer they think would do well in Ybor. And what we saw this year is that residents and workers were very general in their response. They weren't like, I want a Target, I want a Publix. They were like, I want a grocery store, I want a clothing store. So, you know, in other markets, you know, we're able to kind of really refine this. We didn't really get that from this data set, but we still get really good insight seeing that. And you can tell, obviously, these 2 big peaks here kind of tell the story. So nearly half of those who answered this question said that they wanted a grocery store. They could respond more than once. So that means half of them say, I want a grocery store in the historic district boundaries. When it comes to workers, they want fast casual dining. And a lot of the times what seems to emerge with that, they want something that not like McDonald's or Burger King, but like kind of a step up. So you're thinking your bold places that have become very popular. Chipotle is a prime example, but I know we don't probably want that in the district. So that's just to keep in mind. So, and like, you know, there's some good things for others, but really those are the 2 that really stood out. And I think it makes sense given they're like, you know, if you're a worker, you may not have a ton of time to go and get food. So having some place that's quick and affordable and accessible would probably encourage you to eat out more. Are there any questions so far on either of the first 2 sections? So in terms of parking and transportation, it's kind of a tale of 2 cities. So getting around the district, we see really good things from both residents and workers, is that while the personal car is still the dominant mode of transportation, people really do use those like car-free forms to travel around the district, whether that's the streetcars with 56% of residents saying they use it, or 54% of people walking. And we don't see those drop-offs really when we go to the workers. What we see is like, obviously it's a little bit lower, but people are still using the streetcar to get to work during the weekdays, maybe using it on the weekend and coming back into the district. And they're also utilizing like foot transportation. And that's great to see because obviously we know that's an issue in other places. But so that means like, encouraging people to not take their cars all the way into the district, maybe something in the future that could continue to improve it and make it, a more livable place, and a more. But this is kind of where that really difference comes in, is that we've seen a decline in people driving their personal car to work for workers, but we see basically the same increase on public transportation and carpool. So I would say the interpretation of this from my perspective is that this is a reflection of changing demographic patterns in Tampa. More people moving into downtown and utilize the streetcar to get to their work in Ybor. Or parking prices, maybe driving people to want to carpool with coworkers to work, because it's basically even, and everything else really hasn't changed. So that's what we see. It'll be interesting in a few years if this trend continues as the city develops more, but we'll have to wait and see. In terms of their satisfaction, we have seen in the top right corner, we do see a decline over the years. So some of this is significant, particularly everything past distance to workplace and onward. And obviously, I would think that this has to do a lot with, availability and cost. There's not as many free places to park anymore, especially when you go to patronize business. And the availability at nighttime, people may feel constrained depending on what is available at that point. But this is really different from when we see it with the residents who are a lot more satisfied with aspects of parking in the district, where we really haven't seen, sorry, I thought there was one more, or really haven't seen those changes. So that's, again, workers are expressing more dissatisfaction with parking than anybody. So that's something that we heard as we were even going out and handing out surveys. Like when we mentioned that, like stuff about parking, then there were a lot more people who were interested in taking that card and filling out the survey. So I think that covers with that. In terms of safety and security, I should also emphasize that data was collected from June 12th to August 16th of last year. So all of this is a snapshot really during the summertime. So it's a reflection of things before and during, so wouldn't analyze beyond that. But so when we ask the greatest drawbacks, I really point to the chart on the right that just has the top 5. Safety is the biggest concern, and these are generally general safety comments. I tried to break things down so that we know there are other aspects. Obviously, we know people may not feel as safe depending on the homeless population around, or maybe the cleanliness. And so we see some differences, right? Like residents and workers both agree that safety is the biggest drawback to the district. And then things are very different, right? Residents, only 19% explicitly cited homelessness as a drawback, and it doubles when you get to workers. And the same is true with parking. It's only about 1/5 of residents that we surveyed, but 3.5 out of 10 workers mentioned parking as the biggest drawback. Cleanliness isn't even in the top 5 for residents. And that I think speaks to the power of what the DS team has been able to do, really cleaning the district and improving that. So, that's a service that obviously clearly I think there's recognition from the community that it's been successful. And then when we really get to the safety around parking in the district. So this concerns lighting, personal safety, walking to their vehicles, and car security. So what we see on the residential side is that these numbers have either gone up or stayed relatively the same over the course of the study. But since 2018, when this question was first introduced, it basically has not changed from the resident front. Workers are the opposite story. We see that we've seen a decline. Some of it statistically significant, others, it stayed about the same since COVID, 21. We start seeing those drops, but then between 21 and 23, things haven't really changed, for better or worse. So it offers an area of opportunity for the district to improve for the workers around these aspects. And I know that they've been talked about in these meetings and other community meetings too. So I don't think any of this is too surprising, but it just helps to give some more, quantifiable data behind it. And then finally, we usually end our surveys by asking what they recommend Ybor City So starting with the workers, and we see similar trends with the residents, is that there is kind of a change before and after COVID. That's a good delineation line. So what we see is like on the chart on the right, you kind of see the change of differences, and it really hasn't changed. I mean, those who are completely uninterested in working in the district, declined from 2016 to 18, and that has stayed statistically the same ever since. The same is true of the people who are really interested in, interested in living within the district within the next 5 years. Like these things haven't really changed on people who work here and maybe want to live here. But recommending the district, we see that delineation line again of before it was about 85% for each about recommending the district as a place to work. After COVID, it dropped down, but it's still very high. That's still a super majority of workers that we surveyed saying, hey, I recommend this place as a place to work. And that's still a very good positive to point out from that. And then on residents, we see that same delineation line on the right-handed chart is that before COVID, they, almost over 9 in 10 would recommend the district as a place to live. After COVID, it has dropped down. Again, that number is still pretty positive at 75%, like 75 and 79%, but still it's obviously a noticeable drop from before. And again, right, this is affected by a lot of things that have changed in the district, things that have changed across the city, the region, and the country as a whole. So, these are things that offer opportunities as to how to improve the district as more things come in, new developments are arising. And I think just, important things to keep in mind as those decisions are made. So some final thoughts here. In terms of community activation, again, what we see is that residents are likely to utilize streetcar extension, a greenway sign, more green space and park, if they were available or more prevalent in the district. And this is relatively high among workers, but less so compared to residents. In terms of retail development, grocery shopping, casual dining, and health clubs and gyms are the reasons people most leave the district. And workers want more fast casual dining options, while residents are really interested in a grocery store. In terms of parking and transportation, as I said, residents are more satisfied than workers with aspects around parking, just in general, whether it's safety or just general parking concern. But people are primarily relying on their personal car to get to the district, but they may not be utilizing it to get around, which is a positive sign, especially as, you want to make it a more walkable area, and people are utilizing that already, which is great. And then finally, with safety and security, again, I think it's clear from the data that, we gathered that this is the biggest concern amongst both residents and workers, compared to all these other characteristics that we've described. But workers are more concerned compared to residents, especially on specific aspects that may be tangentially related to safety. So again, those people who are coming into the district that you want them to spend time here, maybe even live here, it can be, again, I would say offer them opportunities. That's all I have. Any questions? I don't know how I did on time. But any questions?
That was an excellent recap of all of that data. That's a lot of data, and thank you for putting that all together with the press.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe not a question, maybe a comment.
Yeah.
We focus on residents and workers, but another big constituency here are visitors.
Yes.
And I suspect that just in general, they're going to align with workers on a lot of things like parking and that's when we think about solving for workers, we should probably kind of lump guests in there since we don't specifically survey them.
Yeah.
And think about those things impacting them.
No, I like that. I like that comment. I think that's a good way to look at it, right? You're thinking about workers as people who are temporarily visiting the district for some definite amount of time. So, if I have to drive in, from whatever area it is, like obviously parking is going to probably be a concern or how to get there and all that stuff. So it's a good way to look at that since there's a gap in that sample.
Thank you so much. I just have a comment on this. Y'all know we've done this for 4 years, 4 iterations, baseline. It's really wonderful data. We will be sharing this, and we already do on our website. This will go, I think it's already up there. It's going to be.
It'll go live tomorrow morning. So you'll be able to access this full presentation.
Absolutely. So please feel free to share it. Share it with even new businesses or people you interact with in your companies.
The link in social that we can
Yeah, there will be a corresponding social post going out tomorrow. And it will also be in the upcoming flash email that I so happen I forgot to send Brenda to for
Right.
approval. But yeah, there will be.
That's okay. We'll get it out. We'll
Yeah,
get it
but
out.
it'll be coming out in a couple of forms this week, on both this website and the city's, CRA page.
Yeah, thank you very much. And just so you know, there's no real action on this, but CRA board will be receiving this next month. It's not as a presentation, but they're interested in seeing it, understanding what we do here with the survey. So that will be received and filed to them on February.
Rich is in charge. All right, so just a comment on that. I don't think we specifically take action on it, but this data should drive our thinking. Like, we should have this in our
Absolutely.
minds as we try to.
So
solve problems.
people ask, why do we do this?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's a great question. Well, it helps set community priorities. It helps set our budget when we're looking at things. There is, over the years, we've used it actually to help garner support for certain projects like the archway lights and things like that. So it's valuable. We can use it any way we would like to, but also absolutely, it plays into setting priorities. And thank you, Chris, for bringing that up.
To your point, Chris, would it be advantageous in the future or near future to do a survey outside of the Ybor boundary? And you said consider the businesses, the numbers from the businesses and the workers. Well, a worker comes to Ybor because they have to. And because they work here, right? If they want to get paid, they got to show up. So a worker comes here because they have to. Would there be any advantage to survey outside the Ybor boundary of the visitors that we're always trying to get them?
So just to be specific, you're saying visitors to Ybor within the boundary,
Right.
not just, okay.
Who don't live here
Yeah.
and don't work here?
I would ask, is Lisa or Vicky,
Yeah.
do you guys do any kind of surveys of tourists and guests?
Other than just data collection through the visitors.
So Vic does a little bit. I mean, I would think it's hard. I would ask you, you're more of an expert. Like, is that difficult to do? To get response?
Yeah, so I'm going to stand up again and talk about it a little bit. So this is a good segue into, yeah, I think it would be really difficult to get this. I mean, we've seen over the years that even our participation from residents and workers have declined as it's gone on. And so I would think that if you're trying to tailor it to visitors, so my recommendation would probably be to do smaller things kind of in a quarterly sense. So like if you're really interested in the summer, like something that maybe coincides with the summer. Parking obviously a big issue. There's not as many events going on in the district. So that's maybe a way there. So then you may be able to get more buy-in if the survey is about 5 or 10 questions on specific topics compared to something like this where it's 40 questions and try to get everything. And you can align things well with that, I would say.
What about, like, I mean, one of the things you see a lot of is kind of in the moment micro surveys with
Mhm.
QR code with like
Yeah.
questions, make it really easy, but it's targeted to like specific areas.
Yeah.
It is something like that. Have you heard of entertainment districts in other cities doing something like that with any kind of success?
So I haven't heard about that in other entertainment districts, but there have been things that I'll say one of the projects, we have done like in field, like going up to people, in for DMO, be like, hey, like, are you from this area, from the city? And if they say, yes, I'm a resident, then we let them go. If not, we ask them like a series of a few questions. So it can be done in different ways. It could be a QR code thing, maybe associated with like logging into the Wi-Fi, they have to answer it to get access to it, like kind of how the airport does. Or you could have just people trying to canvass the district in different areas around events, like the Saturday market, or things like that, just going out in the world with clipboards and stuff. As long as people look professional enough, people will answer. Because I know that when we've done stuff like that, we've had good success talking with people. Sure, there are people who don't want to answer and run away. But a lot of people will stay there and answer. It was only about a minute of time. So I'd say those are the two best options, especially when you get buy-in.
I'm just curious about it because the visitors are who we want to come down,
Mhm.
right? That's who we want to draw people to Ybor, not the workers
Yeah.
who work here and have to be here, or the people who live here. The people outside of Ybor, we want to draw that.
Yeah.
And just as a thought, I don't
Yeah.
have the answer, but I'd be curious.
Yeah.
So, we've done 4 of these surveys. I imagine the CRA will continue with a 5th one in a couple of years. I think it's excellent data, maybe way to capture for for visitors for the area. Short and sweet might be a way to go somehow to gonna do that, but it's hard enough to get workers and residents to do that. You know, I have to tell my employees, you're gonna do that. You know, so, yeah, I do,
But to
but
Chris's point, having it really short, like 3
Oh,
questions.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you can tie into other like Visit Tampa Bay or, you know, cruise ships or something like that. Not that's really driving the ship in Ybor City, but anecdotally, the number of times that I've seen a cruise ship drop off a literal bus load of people next to the Ritz, and they're kind of wandering around Fifth Avenue, asking, stopping, like, where's Ybor City?
Yeah.
Because everything's closed during the day, just
Oh,
like that type of interaction could be useful.
Oh, yeah, you know, and there are ways, you know, I ran into people doing that kind of work with the cruise industry stuff this summer. But yeah, you know, you get those people who want to go to and from, maybe stay in Ybor to go to the cruise ship. You know, you can kind of ask them if they choose to go to Ybor. So there are ways to do that. Fran, I thought you had your hand.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank you for the report, and it's good to see everything documented. But for those of us that have been around 25 years plus, those priorities that you have listed on all your charts, the same priorities that have been.
I can only imagine.
Changed. In fact, the only thing I wanted to add, and Brenda will remember, when the big Kubas came down for IKEA
Mhm.
and just wanted to wine and dine us and pat us on the back, and they promised that if we just supported them, everything else would follow. Then Adamo would just become our grocery store, our dry cleaners, and well, we have Coppertail and we have Elector. And you're talking, what, 20 years ago? And so we're still there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's helpful that you're showing us that, but just don't see any progress. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, when will we get a grocery store? We may be doing this 10 years from now and you're gonna have the same graph.
Yeah.
but the data is useful, and especially like. You
Oh,
know,
no, it is.
And much what the CRA board is doing and what they're kind of reformulating the way that they operate, this information is going to be critical for them and what the priorities are and how to spend the CRA dollars and in which areas. So, you know, they're relatively new, but nothing's changed. It's the same thing that we were saying over and over again. I mean, grocery store and safety and security. So
IKEA started it all, but they.
That's the destination.
And I will say, we do a very similar study to the downtown partnership. And I'll talk about that kind of tangent, like in the sense of we've seen some progress from things that we've been able to get from that data as well in a very similar format, but it's taken a lot of time for a lot of the things to go online. And obviously, I think there's political will to do that downtown and in Ybor. So I think, you know, what potentially something like the YCDC can become is, you know, that advocacy groups really push for Ybor's inclusion in this great development and making this area a lot more vibrant. Because my background is in history. I love this place. It made me want to go back into history. But so, you know, that's like, there's something to very preserve, but also to improve and make great. So, you know, I think that, you know, there are things that I think hopefully those tides are changing. That's personal opinion, not HCP. Sorry. I'm gonna say that right now.
Well, I agree with all sides.
I just had a question as far as like, how are we actionable as an advisory committee to advise CRA to say that these are the economic development avenues that we want pursued now. No longer, this has been 20 years, we're done. We want this to be the focus and the target for this region. How do we do that? How are we actionable as a CAC to the CRA to get that done?
Well, this information will be presented to the CRA board, but you know, there are certain things that we want to recommend and highlight to them. I certainly think that's a fair thing that we can do. Put a cover letter on this saying, hey, we've seen the data, these are our priorities, and make that up.
I did that also in my presentation with the CRA board twice.
Yeah.
With the results and everything and what was required, what was requested, what was done to improve the district. So it isn't that it is not presented to the CRA board, it was with the data itself as well.
The sad part is, it's really not up to us anyway. It's like when they were gonna promise us a Publix on Nebraska, it's like they did their feasibility study, and once they did their study, then they figured that a Publix would not be viable in our district. That's the offset that's very upsetting to us. Because when they do their study, well, we don't qualify for their, you know, whatever their future plan is for their business in our district.
All of this stuff is driven by density, right? Like, so we don't have enough people that live here. If you want a grocery store here, you just need more people, and then Publix will come. Like,
Yeah.
they'll build a place here because they'll make money.
Yep.
So they're, right now they won't,
Right.
and that's the
We
challenge.
don't have.
So Gasworks might change that, I don't know, but I mean, there's a possibility. But if you're gonna say like in the next 20 years, what's the best chance of us actually getting a grocery store here? It's a development like Gasworks, it's building density, an actual residence that would use it.
And one thing y'all can, just last month or, November, when you voted on the Gasworks project, that was in line with a lot of these priorities that came out of here, the green space, the public realm improvement. So you are using the data, you're using the priorities in your actions, and you'll do it again when you have the budget. And if there's another proposal that comes forward to you, you can evaluate it and use this as a basis, says, hey, wait, you know what? I can really feel comfortable voting for this because guess what? It's a community party too. And so that's really the benefit I see of this, but you're right. I will say a grocery store 25 years ago wasn't even within a mile or 2 miles of Ybor. Now at least we have one down in Channelside. So it's, at least it's on the streetcar route.
Mile from my house.
At least we have that, but it's creeping this way, and you're exactly right. It's about the residential heads, and it's got to be heads in the beds, not the ones that are under construction. Coming.
It's coming.
I'll reiterate those points, the highlights of this, the CRA board.
Yeah,
Talk to
and
them, so.
right, but since we're on that segue, each depending on the month, March 21st, Ridge will be doing what Steve did for 2 years, is go before the CRA board and highlight to them the discussions about what happens at the CAC meetings, your preferences, all that good stuff. So we're doing that, and that'll be in March.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank
That
you,
was a great presentation. I know there's a ton
Thank you.
of data in
If you have
there.
any extra questions, you can pick up a business card from me. I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to CRA board update. So a couple things happened, last two CRA board meetings. Most of the conversation I've seen at the CRA board is about the transitioning of the CRA board, the new leadership and upcoming programs and things that they're in process of developing. A lot of these projects, developers went and tried to get money for their projects, and they basically said no. But remember, like last month, we saw a Gasworks project that came and paid for the infrastructure and a lot of that. They asked for a tax rebate. So I think the CRA board is more friendly to that. I think things that rebuild roads and strengthen the utilities and the grid and the historic nature of the district. And they also package it as a tax rebate, not asking for money up front. And some of that discussion is also leading towards, there are things that the people do want money for up front. They're going to go through an RFP process, and there's policies in place for that. So lots of interesting things happen up there, but the Gasworks project that did pass in December, that's the presentation that we saw in November with our recommendation. And the big message really is, strengthening communities and getting everything kind of reorganized. It still seems like it's in transition with the new leadership at the CRA board, but they're working through that. We have right now on the CAC board, we have 2 open seats. I believe there might be another one coming through, and the other one's an ex officio assigned back to YCDC, which YCDC, I'll give a quick update on that. Isn't really in a position to put someone forward at this point in time. A couple things that the CRA board, they did have a number of conversations on affordable housing. The guy that spoke from St. Vincent Society was addressing veterans housing and how that affects this. But I think the CRA board, not put words in their mouth, just my observation, that affordable housing component that they took out of our budget, they've got bigger plans for that. A lot of that is affordable housing. So a couple stats that are kind of interesting is the current rents that we're seeing in the district are about 2 times more expensive than what the VA allows these veterans for their rent. So they're having an immediate housing shortage, and there's a good amount, 59% increase in beds on the street in this area too. So they're having financial difficulties just because of the housing crisis and the additional costs of this housing. So it's not only that, people that we see that are general workers, but also veterans and other members of the community. So that's a priority for the CRA board. We'll see how that kind of manifests itself moving forward. They are going to have CRA board or city council. I'm not sure which.
Actually, it's a combination. On February 29th, they're having a combination workshop about affordable housing. So they actually deferred some of their decisions on like that particular project until then, so that they can have this combination. Because a lot of there's what was the Army Navy lot downtown. There's a couple lots downtown that are owned by the city, but also there's CRA interest in it. And before they were going to RFP it out, they wanted to have this workshop. So there is a date and time. They're going to have, and I don't know what is going to be discussed, but it's before we move forward with any major RFPs. They want them to really kind of hear all parameters around what everyone's thinking about for affordable housing. So we don't have anything planned for Ybor that I know of at this point. One of the constraints we have was we don't have any land. 25 years ago, we had a lot of land, the quarter, 5 blocks north of Palm, Centro Ybor.
We have some
East, there is some land east, yes. Talking big assembled lots. Even the streetcar that sits on city property, I don't know if y'all know that, the streetcar barn, that was lot 1. You know what they're called, lot 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, the lots that are for numbers not there, they used to be actually parking lots. But anyway, so we don't know exactly, what we're gonna, but anyway, we'll keep going abreast of what's happening on that front.
One of the things that they voted on last week for the CRA board was also the use of the Ybor City logo, the YC crest that we see throughout the district. So there was a motion made on that, and it's a licensing agreement. So organizations can, by resolution.
Well, it's by resolution. You want me to explain a little bit? Okay, sorry, I sat there right now. So basically, they're going to treat it just like the city logo. They really couldn't determine who really bought the graphics or how it got complicated. And there's a whole memo that was written by Morris Massey that we dug really deep into, where Shaughnessy Hart, who originally created the logo, put on a contract. Anyway, long story short, they're going to treat it just like the city logo. So if you're a user group, they have one resolution that's set up for YCDC Inc. and one actually set up for the chamber. And they have on February 8th, they're going to pass it as a resolution. They haven't done that. They just presented it to the CRA board and they agreed to it, and that's fine. The only caveat is when you utilize the logo, you have to put this disclaimer underneath, and it has to say, basically, it's the spirit of anything that this is representing has no tie to the CRA board of the city. So, but it's an opportunity to promote the district, and it's available. So that's how they're handling it.
By resolution. So if there's other groups that we had a conversation before, that other groups may want to use it for the benefit, like the Ybor City Museum or neighborhood associations, they can put in that request probably through the city, through you, or through
legal. Yeah, through
legal. So you get access to that thing. And I think the general understanding is that Ybor Center groups, Ybor Merchants Association would be able to use that if they apply for that resolution. So that was the big picture, that everyone in the area can use it for the bigger city area.
Okay, are they asking for a fee or anything like that?
No,
And what sort of review process will they have?
it's just it's a resolution, so it has to go to your board, or city council. Actually, city council, the deferment do their process. If you wanted to use the city logo for your event, something like that, or something you're doing, it's the same process. So.
I thought that was good news, and the logo will live on for all to see. I'm going to jump into a quick summary of YCDC. We did have a meeting in December to talk about what the current status is, bylaws update workshop, sent out email to all the current board members and some others. Just a quick note, there's about $16,000 in the bank account. Paper program is going on as normal. Joyce is continuing to work on that. There's probably, 4 to 6 papers a week maybe that go out. And one thing that we did at the last meeting was Bill Carlson and his Tucker Hall hat showed up and presented a couple options for a new logo for the YCDC. So the group that was brought together, we kind of looked at it. Pass these around. What it could look, and this is like a draft first pass at what it is, and basically like option number 3, the option without the chicken in it, like a cigar label. So I think we'll kind of move forward for further development of that logo to give the YCDC its own logo.
They voted on
Great,
the 3.
no chickens.
Oh,
Basically.
right.
Yeah. So in that's a kind of direction that I have at this point in time, and we'll see how that kind of develops. The last thing is I just want to let everyone know that the YCDC contributed about $200 to the Yes Team for their holiday pizza party. So that was kind of authorized, like petty cash, and they had a great turnout for that. And they're all we've done, YCDC has done that in the past for them, so we thought it would continue. So it's about $200. They were happy, and as you know, the Yes Team at Block by Block do an awesome job down here. Integration. I think we can get them their own parade float for every year.
Just cleaned up the truck a little bit. Yes, team trucks is a big improvement.
Yeah. And that's, the other, probably sometime in the next month or so, we'll try to get together for another bylaws workshop with the YCDC. I sent out that email. If you have any comments, feel free to send them back. No one's really said anything about them, but if you have comments or thoughts on where it should go and what the board structure is going to be, how big, and what our role is going to be. One interesting meeting that we had was met with Vince Pardo 2 weeks ago, and he's just for you that don't know, he's a former director. He was the Brenda. He was the original Brenda. That he started off, he was a county employee and then a city employee, and he basically, I remember first getting exposed to YCDC. Vince was the man. Everyone just went to him. And you had a problem, you went into the office. And and he's always, and he's a great
Wealth of knowledge.
wealth of knowledge. He can talk. I forgot how much he can talk. But he likes bringing everyone together, and coming to. He's a good consensus builder. So that was an interesting thing. And I think one of the most important things was he came up with this matrix at one point in time and said, okay, the Ybor Merchants does this, the chamber does this, the Museum Society does this, and all the organizations have their own roles. And he created a matrix of where everyone's priorities were. And I think everyone's been trying to find that original matrix that hasn't been located, but started another draft one to kind of take that place. So I think that's where kind of the YCDC would fit into there. Plug some of those holes to make, things that we could do to make the district better, and support our other sister organizations, do what the chamber does and fill in some gaps while we're together. So, Fran might have a copy of that.
You might want to send the YCDC email out again, because I think you sent it out around the holiday.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. Yeah.
I'm gonna check your email, Fran. I'll send it out again, and there's some notes in there and some updates, minutes, what we talked about. I didn't hear from anyone, so I guess I'll check my outlook again, so I will send that out again.
So you're just trying to find the old grid, or is a new grid going to be created?
Well,
I think you should do it in real time, even if something, the way things were 10, 15 years ago are different than they are now. The chamber's doing a lot more than they ever did, back then.
The basics are there.
The basics are there, but it's basically a matrix where you're just looking at all your organizations, partnerships, and just filling in, what you do, who does what. And in terms of the CAC, you would use the budget. These are the things that we support, we can support, we're behind, the bricks and mortar, all the, so, and you can fill up that column, and then chamber can fill up there, and so on. So it'll find the role. I mean, and from what I understand, advocacy is still out there as a need. And marketing the district, still a need. But, there's those two, like off the top of my head.
Well, at that YCDC meeting, I was surprised, Lee, to hear that the chamber doesn't do marketing.
We market.
That was confusing.
We're a membership
Like
organization.
their membership.
Yeah.
So there is a need for a nonprofit to be funded by whomever to advertise, market Ybor City. We obviously, we're the Ybor Chamber. So anywhere we go, we're in every room that we can find that makes any concept. But we are We advocate for our members. So it's different. There is a need for all of the Ybor City. This kind of thing.
And there's also the special events grant.
There's a lot of
To do
stuff.
on our end.
Right.
The county is doing it on theirs. There's still need for that kind of support for activation, placemaking.
Yeah, it's,
You did a lot.
You can get it funded and it's a write-off for that entity, the YCDC. So, you could have it due on this.
We're not just 501c3. I mean, we're gonna look at different funding sources, whether it's, if we can get state funds or county or city, as a nonprofit, we can certainly go to the city and ask for funding. So there's a lot of different funding mechanisms that all that needs to kind of be wrapped in and redefined.
Somebody said there's a lot of grant.
Sure.
You need a grant writer to get.
Need a grant writer. Yeah. So, eventually, I think down the road, I mean, YCTC would need a Brenda, some staff members to help support the mission. What that is. So a lot of legwork that
And I
needs to
will
be.
continue to be a resource, absolutely, and anything I can do to help. I know I can't do it all, do it. But I'm definitely a resource and a liaison for y'all. It's close to my heart. Y'all know, I was with the organization a long time, so. But thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and that's my turn. Okay, so I know our meeting's getting a little lengthy here, but let me just give you a couple updates. CAC training. A lot of you, especially the new members, have asked about this. We have not had it in 2 years. Well, we are doing it again. We're gearing up to do it on Monday. It's going to be Monday, March 25th or April 1st. It's geared towards new members. This is just to kind of give you a 101 of like, why am I in this room? What is my role? What is the CRA? It goes from the basics to a little bit about the Sunshine Law. We're going to have it here 4:30 to 7. I'll give you a sneak peek. 4:30 to 5 is sort of the social hour, and then we'll kick it off at 5. So we're just updating a presentation. Again, everyone's welcome, but it's really geared towards the new members. Okay, and it will be all the CACs, not just Ybor, so it's across the board. So you'll get to meet other folks. And I'll be getting information. It's going to be Monday, March 25th, 4:30 in this room, or unless you want to, I guess if you want to go to both of them, you can. April 1st, April Fool's Day. At 4:30. March 25th. So it's 2 Mondays, the last Monday in March and the first Monday in April. Okay, so if y'all can take time to come over, it'll be a good interaction, and we'll, just kind of go through a PowerPoint of training, a little 101 about what is a CRA and what your role is, and how also our organizational layout, which has changed. Be informative. So
That'd be
that's
good for a lot of members to go out there just
Actually,
for,
yeah.
because everything's
everybody.
kind of changed since the last go around of training
Yeah.
so everything's structured differently now.
Chris had a great presentation for new board
Yeah.
members for the Ybor CAC, which I found to be invaluable. That as well, but
Yeah.
You guys can have it if you want. I don't-
Yeah, send it to, I remember it was about YCDC too in that one, but we could,
Well,
we could just.
But it is.
But it's got good meat.
Define, like, what's the CRA and all that.
exactly, and it tells you what CRA 1 and CRA 2.
I know, it's in the PowerPoint format. You guys can just take it.
Thank you.
update it if you
You'll
want.
send it over. I've got it all, but I'll definitely integrate anything there as well that's maybe missing. So, yeah, we should have a lot of fun. I don't want to make it painful. I'm going to try to get the food here.
Are you running it for all?
I'm taking charge of it, I'm kind of with the FRA too as well, but we'll have others. We're gonna have other presenters. I find it boring when you have just one same person. You need to divvy it up and show more faces up the top there. So, but anyway, it'll be a nice interaction. You can meet other CAC members of other CACs. We've got 8 of them in Tampa. So it'll be that opportunity. We will ask everybody to RSVP though, because I need to get a head count of how many we're going to have. We have 50 seats in this place. Maybe we can squeeze in a few more if it becomes that kind of popular event. So that's happening. Community outreach. I think I already shared with y'all, again, when it comes to things like ordinance changes, things that the city's doing, I'm trying to get all the word out on that. So the parking lot enforcement, that's happening on Thursday at 9. It's just so you'll know, if you ever want to listen to it, go to tampagov.net. go to city council, go right there in the agenda. It's right there. Just like, if you don't know how to do that, I can coach you through it. But you can get the live webcast.
40 has.
On 640, is it still doing? I never did that for some reason, but you can go through the internet and also you can show up in person. So I think it's number 40 on the agenda or something, it's one of those, but a lot of times they change that and move that up. So that's happening.
Subscribe to the City of Tampa's YouTube channel. So
Yes.
Rebroadcast it there too.
Yes, it's really, really nice that you can just get that information and you can get the PowerPoint. If you're clicking on the agenda, you go to that agenda item, click on it, and you'll get the hard copy PowerPoints, memos that were sent in. You'll get all the background information. So they've changed their system to this on base and it's working real well. A couple other things, we've got some district events going on. I know we still will promote things that are happening in the district because they involve street closure. So anyway, we can get people down to Ybor City, experience Ybor City. We are in event season. February is kicking in. We're a little light in January. We let Gasparilla take over downtown, but we have a role. We do have a park and ride that is kicking in for this weekend. And that will bring people to Ybor City. They will get on because nobody wants to drive downtown. Everyone knows that. So we do get a little bit of folks that are coming maybe before the event or even ending up here after the events.
Buses as well as.
They have buses. Hart is doing that shuttle. Do the street. I know. Isn't that great? It's but no, they will have that bus line and there's a map online. We're getting a flash out. Jack's going to have that out this week. So just click on it if you need that information and share it with anybody in the neighborhood, business, employees or what have you. We also have a couple of new events. We've got their Pomada on Ybor. Michael Murphy's here. I know this is an event that's new to Ybor, but not new to the area. Car show, I understand.
What this is, Silver Deer Gallery is presenting this. Carmada is a project that Mitzi Gordon started 9 years ago. Creatively painted and decorated cars. She's done it at the Gasparilla Festival of the Arts at the Shine Mural Festival. First year, we're bringing it down here. The event will go from noon to 4. Street closure will be 11 to 5. But there'll just be a handful of creatively decorated cars on 7th Avenue. Nomad Art Studio, which is a converted bus, will be there doing interactive art projects. May or may not have the HEC art. We're going back and forth for Sabrina. But ideally, also all the galleries and art studios that are in the district will be open as well. So it'll be like a walking art tour.
Fantastic. What date was it?
Closure 11 to 5.
It's February 3rd.
Saturday, February 3rd.
So first Saturday in February. And then, of course, we have the annual night parade happening the next week. That should be exciting. Everyone knows about that one. It's been around for how many years. And then Indie Flea. Indie Flea is kind of a new, we have the market that goes on every Saturday, but now Indie Flea is bringing in this kind of block. I guess it's like a block retail market that's happening now. And they're actually scheduled out every month now. They're the second Sunday of the month. So that's right. And the pictures are great. I've been down there. It's bringing people down to Ybor. So that's fantastic. And then we also have Fiesta Day, of course, that is celebrating another momentous year. That's going to be fantastic. The parade of flags will go on and just the regular HG, all the chamber people here know. So thank you all.
That's February 24th.
February 24th. Yes. Very
About a
important
few
day.
nights available.
Yeah. Oh yeah. David, are you still in charge of the flags?
Absolutely. Somebody does it.
So he is the flag.
Best time you'll have all year.
The best parade in town. It really is.
There's that.
You need the figurehead and you need the workers.
Yeah.
He's a spokesmodel for the whatever.
So some exciting things happening in February. I do want to bring attention to you all about the 7th Avenue bricking project. This has gotten bricking, 7th Avenue bricking. Guys, actually, it is very, very good news. We've been coordinating very tightly with our mobility department. Y'all know we put in a budget for about $969,000 for this bricking to start along 7th Avenue. Well, we have an estimate that came in under that. We can use an existing contractor and he's ready to go after festival season. So I think we're talking between phase 1, 15th to 17th Street. Okay. So, and the bricks would go within the existing existing street, not in the parking wells in the street. So I updated CRA board on this, and Charlie Miranda gave me a very interesting question, which we couldn't answer at the moment. It was about, Brenda, like what is the weight load of the bricks? And I sat there, so I looked at my mobility guide, he kind of had a blank look, but evidently, bricks are supposed to be put in place to last 50 years, and it all depends on the base. So if the base is good, the bricks should hold up. And they brought this question up because there was Mr. Carlson said something about Savannah doing a project very similar where they used replicate brick, and they after a few months, the bricks started breaking and it was a disaster, so the parking lot. So we're using authentic brick, so it should stand in place. But this is exciting. This is what we really want to do. And I'm telling you all about this now because we're coming up with a very robust communication plan with HCP and B, who is here. I have to make sure that everybody knows about this project. And not only that everybody wants to come down and see this project. So it doesn't deter businesses from losing business during this time. So I think we can turn this into a fun attraction. Not every day you can go down to Ybor City and kind of watch bricks being put in the middle of the street. So, and there may be something interesting. So we got to turn this around.
Thing is, if we don't hurry, the price is gonna be.
When are they thinking about starting?
April.
How long?
And actually, they almost could start earlier, possibly. We need to get through parade season.
Yeah.
We cannot sacrifice that
Right.
business.
Yeah.
So it may be, maybe May. We'll find that sweet spot of when is the perfect time. But yes, it's looking very promising. I'm excited about it.
How long do they
And-
anticipate the project?
Depends on how fast they put the bricks down, but
And
they're
the
gonna,
weather and the-
it's gonna, right. I don't have the answer on that yet, but let's just assume it's a 2-month process. Let's just assume maybe, again, they have to take everything up, put a base down and put it down and then put the brick down.
Quality base.
And we want a quality base, a strong base. So I don't have this question from
They'll do one block at a time.
one block at a time. Well, we're doing 15 to 17.
Right.
So you
So
do
we'll
the
be
first block and then, but there will be no traffic in the middle of the street while the bricks are going down. So all the pedestrian traffic will be up on the
No, but
sidewalk.
it's
So
exciting.
Who has the details on the base, given that we've had crosswalks that fall apart and the brick that went in on 8th Avenue next to the streetcar hasn't held up terrifically either. So I'm just trying
well,
to,
now the mobility and the contractor obviously, now that this question came to council, it's really going to be looked at. But the specs on it would be, right, I can get that. I don't have it.
I'll email you. I'm sure no one else in this room is.
Are y'all interested in that detail?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the bricks.
It's gonna be fascinating because the brick, and the vintage brick, and you do a well-designed road base. Vintage brick, it's not designed for 2,000-pound car traffic. It was designed for lighter vehicles or, pedestrian or horse-drawn vehicles. So we're always going to have
We got
issues
flows.
with that. It's not going to be perfect.
We've been like with that at Water Street, it's not brick, but the crosswalks that
They had to rebuild them.
they're gonna need to.
They already did. They already rebuilt them about a month ago.
Really?
That's the ones across from,
That Water Street.
right, yeah, right by the corner of Omni Arena where the Oyster Bar is.
Yeah, yeah.
They've rebuilt them. They're
They sell
They
within
took
a year.
all out, put on a new base.
Okay,
They didn't have a good base. Okay, it's all about
Yeah,
the base.
so it's all about-
And we know the
We
historic-
can talk about that. We can talk about that.
Not the trouble, it's the base.
We know the historic base will hold up because they're holding up all over the city of Tampa. The question is the base going to be
Well
sinking
compact,
into the
yeah.
ground? So yeah, I agree with David. This is important.
Yes, absolutely. So, anyways, that's happening. That's exciting. I'll have more information for y'all as we move forward with it. And we'll definitely be getting flashes out about, when that's going to take place. Other project, the Ybor South Pipe Drainage and Flood Mitigation Study. Isn't that exciting? I know, it's moving forward. They had a kickoff meeting. They've got Stantec involved. This is a small project, but it's got a big impact. It's really focusing on the Ybor South flooding issue. Yeah, it's important. So they're in the middle of it. I don't have a report back, but they have started it. They're already starting to submit some invoicing in because they've done some of the deliverables, some of the phases of the project. So this should be a quick turnaround and I should have them come back to y'all pretty soon.
A report for our next meeting?
Yeah, if I have it, absolutely. I'm actually gonna invite them to come and present it to y'all.
Sure.
I mean, we're spending money on this and we wanna,
This
So y'all-
is a big deal for people who are impacted.
yeah.
I don't know what word they even say.
Yeah,
I know.
they might as well sell both slips out front.
Is the scope for this project available online
Yeah.
somewhere so we can take a look at it?
I'll find out, yes. I know it came, I thought it came to y'all before, but I didn't make sure. Yeah, there's the RFP. Yeah, I'll get stormwater. I could just email them.
I was just wondering, I mean, they're just doing, are they gonna be providing or?
This is the
proposing
study.
Solutions.
Right.
That's
The, and the only, right, we're assuming whatever recommendations come out of this is gonna be a CIP project. For that intersection, but we can only do the portion that's in the CRA.
Right.
If it goes beyond it, city stormwater will pick up.
Right, but they're gonna detail the mitigation. They're gonna either like propose ponds, green infrastructure, LID, whatever along that lines for the city.
Expecting stick down. So I'll, again, report back on that one.
It's gotta be, there's no place for, it's bad.
Luckily,
With
it's
central-
raining right now.
Central
but-
Ybor in the garage right there, that long. Very
Okay, so more on that, just tell y'all what that it has begun. And then the CRP update, we are really past due to get CRP updated. It's been since 2004, I think. I know we've done vision plans. I know we've done all that, and those are wonderful, but this is our Bible, so we need to update this. So I'm starting those conversations with our city planning department. We may engage either a consultant from the city, the city's list, or maybe even go to the planning commission. I'll come back with what's the best scenario for that next meeting. And I think that's it.
good. Talk about the same one.
Oh, Centennial Park, yes, yes. Yes. Okay, I don't have a lot on that, other than the fact that we are regrouping. And the plan is to go out for a design build, not a design bid build. Okay, because that's what we had before. And so the challenge with this, it's not a challenge, but it's going to be a multi-year, multi-million dollar project. So we have 10 years of the TIP left. So we need to have this discussion about what we can plug in each year to make that a whole project. And I believe we can start the project, even if we don't have it all, we can start the design work. But I'm going to come back to you. I just want to let y'all know that it has not been forgotten. It is coming back. It's coming back, but we have to go back out to bid. So we have to do a different process. And I know you're shaking your head, but it honestly, this is the better way to do it. It should have been done this way to begin with.
What design build?
Absolutely. Parks wants it that way. If not, you don't, what ends up happening, you do it, a beautiful design.
Yeah.
And then you bring another team in that's not connected to the designer, and then you try to build it. A lot of times it ends up being more expensive, and you want the designer involved. So that's where it's at right now. Okay, so more to come.
Thank you, brother. All your hard work and effort. Any unfinished business? I don't think there was anything outstanding from last time. Hearing none, new business, anyone?
No, I just don't know if everybody knows about the 1920 piano. It's been all over the news about people stopping by and.
Oh, at 1920, yeah, my son played that. One day.
Well, Jeannie Houghton from WMNF, it's her son Josh. They got it there. Isn't it Michael Shanker? Yeah. So people.
The old French patio.
Oh.
I know, it's better.
I just posted something like this afternoon about the project and it said something about 12 pianos around.
Yeah, he
Will
wants,
be out next year.
he wants to do one every month in different parts of the city.
Right.
So he's already got like 12.
That's a great idea. I think that's cool.
Next year.
They do that in a lot
You
of
know,
the cities.
We had this before.
Yes.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
We did it to the Christmas time, Ybor did it, and they had 6 or 7 pianos.
Yeah.
They just scattered, they had to put on private property, but there's a couple on the porches and like over there, the
I
museum.
remember Mary said
Yeah.
one.
I remember the postman got some attention one day when he went up there and started playing. The US postman just started playing the piano.
I just think that's a good idea.
Any other announcements?
Yeah.
Or-
Museum Society Buildings Alive, February 29th. This year, I think the starting point is the J.C. Newman Cigar Factory, and it goes from 5 till 9:30 at night.
Wait, can you repeat that?
I can't.
Okay, damn it. I'll wait for the next one.
Buildings Alive, February 29th, 5 to 9:30, starts at the J.C. Newman Cigar Factory.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I was there today. J.C. Newman opened their Cigar Workers Park today, so they had the ribbon cutting there with David and Lee were there as well. So they cut the ribbon for the park adjacent to the J.C. Newman factory. So well attended. It was, you know, I think a lot of energy in that area. You know, they had their building across the street, the concrete structure approved at Mario to move forward this morning too for restoration of that building. Lots happening north of the interstate for our neighbors. You know, the bathhouses are still there. I'm not sure if they're vacant or occupied.
So reach out to me if y'all have any other events, things that we help promote. We'll get the Museum Society out there and have a good month.
And that's one. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, they were. I think now they can. That was what
Sure.
now, I've been working on that team. In the city of Chicago, you know, how we tackle this. So,
Planning on doing it from Ottawa once they get here. Yeah, yeah, if you send me any of that, yeah. Include it much we can.
But there's
And then we'll
no
have-
projects.
It's
fun.
And they have been actually.
Dedicated.
Yes, it has to be spent. Yeah, the money has to be spent in the theory. Yes, but the question, what is that look like?
Exactly.
And what we're gonna, so it's a, you know. I think I'm not on that team. Yes, they have been involved. Oh, and I forgot to mention, next month, we're gonna have the grants team come back and they're gonna now unveil all the new grants that they've been working on. I think I put it on.
You put it on
That
there,
on there?
right?
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Meant to mention that too. So we will have that.
County grants?
CRA grants.
CRA?
Everything's CRA. So every, their own office, the grant team. And so.
Yeah, I know.
And it's
Yeah,
like
so all the like the facade grant, we have a lot of standalone grants now. I think they've consolidated them under different headings so that you have, if you're eligible for this exterior work and you meet this criteria, you can apply. But I'm letting them work on it. They've been working on it and it'd be good to be able to call on me about that.
Thanks, John.
Oh, no.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a
Take
lot of work and effort, data.
Thank you.
Do you want me to pull it out of the?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, I can just leave and it should be.